Austin News begins with breaking news.
That breaking news is out of Leander ISD, where they are closing all 6th grade classrooms at 2 schools. 6th graders at Wiley Middle School and Canyon Ridge Middle School will learn remotely for the next 10 days. The district reported 357 new cases this week and made the decision to switch 2 elementary school classes to remote learning Thursday night. CBS Austin's Melanie Torrey joins us live from Leander ISD headquarters. Melanie, the district says this is their plan to get the situation under control so they don't have to shut down completely.
Yeah, and a cluster in a middle school is a bit more complicated than a cluster in an elementary school. Because middle school students are switching class periods all day, you can't just send home an entire class, but instead you have to send home the entire grade. However, the state limits how many times a district can do this. Leander ISD's Wiley Middle School currently has 25 confirmed COVID cases. 21 of those reported this week. Every case is a 6th grader. Whitestone Elementary is reporting 30 confirmed cases, 19 this week. 11 are in kindergarteners. Earlier this week, a Leander ISD 5th grader pleaded for consistent mask wearing.
If everyone wears masks, then we can stay in class and see our friends. We can help prevent the spread of COVID and protect our teachers and friends.
This year, in a lot of ways, is more unstable than last year was.
Leander ISD spokesperson Corey Ryan says a more contagious virus, less mask compliance, and fuller schools are all creating challenges. The district can't force close contacts of positive cases to stay home, but they can temporarily move a large group of students to remote learning.
We don't have the ability to quarantine you, but the superintendent has the ability to close a school or close a portion of a school. And that's essentially what we're doing when we close a classroom and sending kids to remote conferencing.
This year, remote learning is only funded if specific requirements are met. It's also capped at 20 days per student per school year. This week, Williamson County health officials recommended Leander shut the entire district down. But at a board meeting last night, the superintendent said that isn't an option.
Unfortunately, closing the entire district cuts 42,000 students worth of funding every day for 10 days is not something that this district can afford to do.
What does he mean by that?
When it came to making this decision, the first thing was outweighing the safety implications. Obviously, COVID is a very serious threat, and we're very concerned about its continued spread in our schools and in our community.
Leander ISD says the decision is about safety, but it's also about keeping the district around for the staff and students who rely on it.
Being able to close the whole district down would mean that we would be closed, not collecting ADA funding for students. So the ability to continue to pay staff during that time period without going into fund balance and having to spend savings that's already getting more and more depleted because the state has not answered and provided the resources that we need to be able to operate schools during a pandemic.
In Leander, Melanie Torrey, CBS Austin News.
Some Texas schools are now seeing more students test positive for COVID-19 compared to any time last year. CBS Austin's Lindsay Regas spoke with a Del Valle ISD mom who says in the first week of school, 3 of her children tested positive for COVID-19.
Del Valle ISD parent Barbara Lopez says the school year was off to a great start for her 4 children.
They were fine all summer.
Until the 4th day of school when her 11-year-old son started feeling sick.
Nobody went to school. They all stayed here. And then Tuesday, Gabriel started with the fever too.
The whole family was tested for COVID-19 and all 3 of her sons tested positive.
The 2 small ones, since they don't have the vaccine, they've had fevers.
As COVID-19 cases in Austin area schools continue to increase, Austin Public Health is urging parents to keep their child at home if they're feeling sick.
Even if they have slight sniffles and a head cold, that could be a very telltale sign that they have COVID.
Since the start of school, 93 Del Valle ISD students have tested positive for COVID-19 across 16 campuses, and 28 staff members have tested positive for COVID-19.
We're experiencing more cases that are occurring in the classroom, and we're very concerned about that.
Lopez says her 2 boys who are too young to get vaccinated are experiencing more COVID-19 symptoms compared to her 13-year-old son who is vaccinated.
The first 3 days, it was kind of scary. They all had, the 9-year-old and 11-year-olds had a fever and like a dry cough.
After seeing 3 of her children contract the virus, Lopez is now urging other parents to vaccinate their children if they are 12 years old and up and mask up in schools.
My kids want to go back, but I'm like, no, it's scary.
We reached out to the school district and have not heard back. Lindsay Regis, CBS Austin News.
Stricter safety measures are now in place for Austin's large events and festivals. Negative COVID test, mask zones, and more social distancing will be required starting Monday. CBS Austin's Betty Cross joins us live right now. Betty, timing is also critical.
That's right. ACL is set for the first 2 weekends of October right here in Zilker Park. Now, according to these new rules, if the surge continues or gets worse, that could impact if or how the show goes on.
Come in and get your shot and get your wristband.
Vaccine incentives hit a high note today. 1,000 music fans scored a free ACL wristband at Q2 Stadium after getting a dose of a COVID vaccine.
They were feeling hesitant, they were busy, the work schedules, and they were just, kind of waiting for the right time. And because we offered this today was the right time.
ACL Fest partnered with Vax Together Austin, Austin FC, and Walgreens to get more people vaccinated. It's the type of effort the city of Austin says it wants to see to continue issuing permits for large festivals and events.
This Delta variant is moving like wildfire through our city.
Austin's top health authority says the surge in COVID-19 cases and stress on EMS and hospitals are too high to allow some permitted special events to continue. Bat Fest was just canceled because health officials said big events increase EMS calls for accidents and heat-related illnesses.
The choices that we've had to make regarding those events that we have permitting authority over have been based on whether or not our community has the resources to care for individuals in our hospital systems.
Starting Monday, the city will require more safety measures to get a special event permit. They include proof of a negative COVID test within 72 hours of the event and mask zones at outdoor events where social distancing isn't possible.
We're working with them to make their events as safe as possible.
Deciding who gets a permit also depends on the timing of the event. If cases and hospitalizations are surging, the city won't issue permits that might prevent EMS or hospitals from being able to adequately protect the rest of the city.
The virus doesn't have a timetable. It's going at its own pace.
Now, the permit changes only apply to events that are required to obtain a special event permit like ACL, which will be held here in Zilker Park. They don't cover activities at Q2 Stadium, Circuit of the Americas, and the Moody Amphitheater at Waterloo Greenway. Those facilities, those events do not fall under the special events permit. Reporting live at Zilker Park, Betty Cross, CBS Austin News.